Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back for episode 3 of Can You Beat Pokemon Red Without Healing? In the last episode, we made our way to Vermilion City and gained access to Diglett Cave and more importantly, Dugtrio. We used Dugtrio to take down the rival on the SS Anne, Misty, and Lieutenant Surge. The rules for this challenge are pretty complicated, so let's go over them again. Since this is a no healing run, we aren't allowed to heal our Pokemon, and this includes Pokemon centers, healing items, and healing moves. For some additional challenge, we are also not allowed to use PowerPoint restoring items, X items, or legendary Pokemon. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to help support the channel, and with all that being said, let's get into the run. After beating both Lieutenant Surge and Misty, we have to make our way to Rock Tunnel. Right now, our team is essentially Dugtrio and Marcel, a Mr. Mime we received via a trade. I would be lying if I said I had a plan for Marcel at the moment. Marcel does gain boosted experience points because he's a traded Pokemon, but he starts at level 15 and it takes quite a grind until he is usable enough to not just be one-shot by enemy Pokemon. Everyone assumes that he's going to play a big role in this run, but we have to remember that I can't restore power points in this run either, so keeping a Pokemon long term is very difficult and I would prefer to hold on to the TM for Psychic until the Elite Four. With all that being said, we have unlimited access to Dugtrio at this point, so I decide to train up Marcel anyway. Worst case scenario is we waste a little bit of time switch training, but I'm sure he will have some use at some point throughout the run. Now that we are in Rock Tunnel, we don't really have much to worry about. There's really only one trainer in Rock Tunnel that can be a roadblock, and it's this hiker that has 2 Geodude and a Graveler. He likes to use Self-Destruct, which is an extremely powerful move that knocks out the Pokemon that uses it in exchange for one high damage move, but we have Dugtrio. Dugtrio is a pretty hardy Pokemon and it knows Dig. Dig is a 2-turn move where the first turn Dugtrio digs underground, and the second turn it unleashes a pretty powerful ground attack. When Dugtrio is underground, it can't be hit with attacking moves, so we essentially have a chance for the hiker's Pokemon to knock themselves out, and if they don't self-destruct, Dig is going to one-shot them anyways since it's super effective. After making our way through Rock Tunnel, we find ourselves in Lavender City, but there's not much to do here right now, so let's make our way to Celadon. There's tons of trainers on Route 8 and some new grass areas for wild Pokemon, but honestly, there's not too much that's useful here. The highest level Pokemon are level 20, and they can't really compete with the level 29 and up Dugtrio that we have access to right now. We can also skip almost all trainer battles besides one, which is good because our team is a little beaten up after going through Rock Tunnel. However, once we get to Celadon City, we have a lot to do, but the first item on the list is going to be getting the HM for Fly. This allows us to fly back to Vermilion City so we can catch more Dugtrio since that's still the best Pokemon that we can get right now. Before topping off our team with fresh Dugtrio, we have to do some shopping. We need to get a beverage for the guards to let us through, and if you give one of each beverage to this NPC, they reward you with the TMs for Ice Beam, Rock Slide, and Tri Attack. Ice Beam and Rock Slide could both be useful later on for Elite Four type coverage, and Tri Attack is good to sell. We also have access to Great Balls now, which make catching Dugtrio a little less miserable. The catch rate for Dugtrio goes from a terrible 6.8% to a slightly less terrible 13%. With a new healthy team, we are ready to take on Team Rocket at the game corner. For the most part, this area is pretty low-key. We find some random items laying around and use these tiles to solve a puzzle, if you want to call it that. The only battle here that is worth going over is our first battle with Giovanni. He leads off with a level 25 Onix, and we're still training up Marcel at this point. We switch to one of our Dugtrio, who's gonna faint from poison anyway, and he one-shots Onix with Dig. For Rhyhorn, we're gonna switch Marcel in again, and he's at level 22 now, so he's close to being usable, but Dugtrio has Rhyhorn handled with a one-shot Dig. Giovanni's last Pokemon is a level 29 Kangaskhan, and we can throw Marcel back out for experience and then switch to Dugtrio. Dugtrio's first dig critical hits for a little over 2/3 HP, and then we take a Rage for some light damage. Another dig takes out Kangaskhan, and Marcel levels up to 23, and we beat Giovanni, which gives us the Sylph Scope, which allows us to progress back in Lavender Town at the Pokemon Tower. The first task at the Pokemon Tower is going to be a rival fight, and this is normally the most trivial rival fight in the game, besides maybe the very first one in Oak's lab. However, this time, it's not that easy. The rival starts with Pidgeotto, and since Pidgeotto is a flying type, we can't use Dig. This leaves us with only Scratch as our attacking move, which doesn't do a ton of damage, so Pidgeotto can hurt us quite a bit before we eventually knock it out since it's a 4-hit KO, and that's with a critical hit. The real problem is our rival's next Pokemon, which is Gyarados. Gyarados is a water flying type, which means we can't use Dig once again. Gyarados also knows Hydro Pump, which is a one-shot on our Dugtrio, so this is a really bad matchup for us. This battle is definitely a reset, but let's talk about Gyarados for a second since it's one of my favorite Pokemon. Gyarados is a flying type, but can't learn flying type moves by level up or TM. Shouldn't it be water dragon type instead of water flying? Well, let's look into that. If Gyarados was water dragon, it would only have one weakness, which would be dragon type, but Gen 1 only had one dragon type move, which is Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage does a set 40 damage when used, so essentially Gyarados would have no weaknesses. So that answers why it's not water dragon, but why is it water flying? Well, Magikarp and Gyarados are based off of a Chinese mythology story called Carp Leaping Over Dragon's Gate. In this tale, there's a Dragon's Gate located at the top of a waterfall cascading from a legendary mountain. Many carp, or I guess Magikarp in this case, swim upstream against the river's strong current, but few are capable or brave enough for the final leap over the Dragon's Gate. If a carp successfully makes the jump, it is transformed into a powerful flying dragon. In Gyarados' case, however, it abused its newfound powers and its ability to fly was taken away. So although Gyarados' typing was mainly to avoid it being overpowered, it does have a really cool backstory explaining it. However, none of that information is going to help us beat our rival with our current team, so it's time to take a look at some new Pokemon. With Gyarados being water flying, we need an electric type move, and it just so happens that we can go pick up a level 25 Eevee for free in Celadon City. And if we head over to the Celadon department store, we can purchase a Thunderstone and evolve it into a Jolteon. Now we have a Jolteon, an electric type Pokemon, but it doesn't know any electric type moves. It only knows Tackle and Sand Attack, which isn't going to cut it against Gyarados. Luckily, we did get the TM for Thunderbolt from Lieutenant Surge last episode, so we can teach Jolteon Thunderbolt and head back to the rival. For this attempt, we aren't going to lead off with Marcel since we have Pokemon that we can't replace. We don't want to risk Jolteon taking damage just so we can switch train Marcel a few times. Jolteon also gives us a type advantage against Pidgeotto, so we can one-shot it with Thunderbolt. Now we're back to our rival's Gyarados again, and it's also a one-shot with Thunderbolt since it's 4 times super effective. The rival uses Growlithe next, and this time we're going to switch to Marcel and then into Dugtrio. Since Dugtrio is expendable, we can risk it taking some damage, and then we use Dig against Growlithe. Growlithe goes down in one hit, and we have Kadabra next. I definitely don't want to mess around with switching when it comes to Kadabra, so we use a critical hit Dig and knock it out. The rival's last Pokemon is Ivysaur, and since it's weak to Psychic, I wanted to try out Marcel. Confusion takes it down to just under half HP, and Ivysaur uses Leech Seeds, so we win the battle without taking any damage from his entire team. I know Jolteon and Thunderbolt made that rival fight really easy, but I really didn't want to use Thunderbolt this early in the game. The only other stronger electric move we can get is Thunder, but it's far less accurate. But having some type coverage now will help keep the progress more consistent for a little. After the rival, we can progress through Pokemon Tower, and for some reason Dig not only hits ghost types, but it's super effective. I don't really understand it, but that's not going to stop me from using it. Since we essentially have unlimited digs with Dugtrio, the Channeler trainers aren't really an issue since they use ghost type Pokemon. But remember back in episode 1 when I said there was 2 mandatory healing spots in the game? Well, we've arrived at the second one, and I really had to think about how to handle this. I mean, I could go get War Turtle back and use it as a free heal, but that felt sort of against the spirit of the run. I could just walk through it with my current team since I can't really avoid it and just chalk it up as an unskippable heal, but that didn't feel right to me either. So I decided to go back to the Pokemon Center and remove every Pokemon from my party that's not 100% healthy. This way, when we walk onto the platform and it heals us, it's not actually going to do anything. The issue with that though is that there's a few battles after the healing platform that aren't ghost Pokemon, and all we have is 2 Dugtrio now. All 3 trainers are Rocket Grunts, and the first trainer has 2 Zubat and a Golbat. So not only can we not use Dig since they're flying type, we're probably going to get confused as well. Since we can't use Dig, we have to use Scratch, and it doesn't do a ton of damage, but since the Zubat are first form Pokemon, we don't have to worry about them too much. However, once Golbat comes out, we do have to be more careful. I decide to go for sand attacks to hopefully get some misses with Confuse Ray and Supersonic. Anytime one of those moves does land, we can just switch to the other Dugtrio. Golbat ends up taking 6 scratches to be knocked out, and we had to do a little bit of switching to avoid hitting ourselves in confusion, but all in all, not too horrible. The next grunt has coughing and a drowsy, and both are weak to dig, so they each faint in one shot, and now we have one last trainer battle before we can get our team back. The last rocket grunt leads off with Zubat, which takes 2 scratches to knock out. Rattata is up next, and since we outspeed, we have no issue one-shotting it with dig. The rocket grunt sends out Raticate next, and we also outspeed it, so we get a one-shot with dig as well, and his last Pokemon is another Zubat, and although we do get confused, it gets knocked out with 2 scratches. After rescuing Mr. Fuji, he gives us the Pokeflute, and we're gonna go catch a Snorlax. It's pretty similar to catching Dugtrio in the beginning of this run, as a Great Ball only gives us a 7.8% catch rate, but Snorlax is really bulky, and at level 30, it's going to be a nice addition to the team for the next section of the game. But that's something that we're going to have to explore in next week's episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so that you can be notified when new episodes come out. I'll see you next week for episode 4. Peace.